What's up, everybody? Former Glory Day here, and I have the incredible pleasure of looking at Predecessor's upcoming patch 1.10. Man, time's really flying. I'm in the Predecessor Creators Guild, and we've been given a early access view at patch 1.10 and all of the incredible stuff that comes with it. One of the amazing features that's on the way is 38 new items. This is something the community has been begging for, pleading for, asking for, and they have heard us. 38 new items. This video is going to break down what those 38 items are, and it's going to look at each role and what items are coming to those roles. So without further ado, not going to waste any more of your time. We are going to jump into the carry items. Right out the gate, we have to talk about a brand new class of items that they've brought to the game. It is called cursed items. Yes, you've heard that right, cursed. What this does is going to give you a big buff somewhere, but it comes at a cost. There'll be a debuff somewhere else in your stat lines. So for carries, they've got an item called the Cursed Ring. It's going to provide 30 physical power, 30% attack speed, 35 magical power, so a little bit of both there. The curse is called the Curse of Swiftness. Your attack speed will be increased by 1.4x. And on the flip side, your basic attacks will deal 35% less damage. In addition to the Curse of Swiftness, there's an additional passive called the Broken Chains. Increases the attack speeds per second cap from 3 to 4. There is a restriction of just one cursed item in your build. However, this increase of the attack speed cap from 3 to 4, coupled with the increase of 1.4x, your attacks are going to be absolutely blasting Gatling gun style. Think about the implications. We could put this on a Murdoch and just right? It's going to be amazing. Now you'll deal 35% less damage, but for those on-hit builds and those, I'm sure there's really cool ways out there that you could make that into something amazing. The next option is Necrosis. Now this is a 2850 gold cost, 30 physical power, 30% attack speed, and 20% critical strike chance. It has a passive called Necro's Edge. You're going to gain 25 ultimate haste. Additional passive called Matter Disruptor. Your ultimate ability deals 15% more damage. I think about people like Skylar. I think about Grim, people with just already have a nuke of an ult. This is going to be a great ability or a great passive ability for them. The next item is Ruination. This is 3,000 gold, 55 physical power, 20% critical chance. It has a passive on it called Spirit Bleed, which is an active passive. It has a 15-second cooldown that is triggered upon a successful on-hit attack. When you trigger it, you apply a bleed that is going to drain the enemy's mana by 25 plus 6% of their max mana over 4 seconds. This deals true damage equal to 80% of the mana drain. So at the end of the 4 seconds, you're going to deal 80% of that damage back as true damage. However, damaging the target with an ability while this is active during that 4 seconds will refresh its duration. So once you get that on-hit attack to trigger Spirit Bleed, if you chain abilities against that enemy, you will elongate, you will extend and refresh the duration of Spirit Bleed, making for a huge chunk of true damage returning to that person as you are also depleting their mana supply. So this is a really cool item that has a lot of interaction between you and the enemy that you're facing with very, there are some niche implications. This is like the mage's worst fear right here, to have them all the time. Next one is my personal favorite coming to the game. It's called Scattershot. 3,100 gold, provides 45 physical power, 20% attack speed, and 20% critical chance. There is a passive on this item called Scatter with a half-second cooldown. This is an on-hit trigger. When it triggers, it summons 2 projectiles from the target that you hit, and they home toward the closest enemy. This does include minions as well. This does include minions as well. And something that I'm not sure about is if it's going to prioritize enemy heroes. I would assume that it does, but I'm not sure about that. Each one of these projectiles deals 30% of your physical power as damage, and it applies your on-hit effects at 50% effectiveness. They can critically strike and apply lifesteal. So if you have that built into your build, which you'll get at least 20% from this item, you will apply those features with these projectiles at 50% effectiveness. So an amazing way to absolutely tear through waves. And I think about the implications about a team fight when we're grouped on Fangtooth, grouped on Orb, and everybody's huddled together. You're going to shred people. So this is a really, really cool item. And that's the final item for carries. So now we are going to move on to assassins. The first item that we have is really cool. It's called Alternator. And this is actually an evolving item. So it has kind of a quest, if you will, built into it. And when you have successfully completed that quest, it will evolve into a heightened version of this item. So the base version is called Alternator. It provides 40 physical power, 8 physical pin, 250 mana, and 10 ability haste. It has a passive on it called Alternate Reality, where your alternate ability deals 12% more damage. Now, this is the quest, if you will, portion of the item called Adeptus. Damaging heroes with your alternate ability gives you a stack. They call it Triggering Adeptus. So you can gain a stack once per ability, and when that counter reaches 20 stacks, you will return to base, and this item, Alternator, will evolve into its heightened form, Alternata, which essentially what it swaps out for. Your alternate ability will still do 12% more damage, but you gain Nada style, replacing that quest Adeptus. And what happens is when you use your alternate ability, you will reduce all other basic ability cooldowns by 12%. So it's really going to help you get more abilities out, which, as every assassin player knows, is an absolute win. In addition to that, you're going to gain 2 more physical pin and 100 more mana when this item is evolved into its heightened version, Alternata. So that is a really cool evolving item that they've brought to the game. The next item is called Manta Scythe. This item is 2,800 gold, provides 25 physical power, 12% physical pin, 20% attack speed, and 8% lifesteal. It has a triggered passive called Insatiable Harvest. On a basic attack, you will deal 2 times damage to minions and small monsters. And when you kill siege minions and camp leaders, you permanently gain 0.5 physical power. An additional passive on the item is called Divide and Conquer. So against an enemy unit within 2,500 units, if that enemy has no ally within 800 units of themselves, you're going to deal 15% isolation damage to that enemy. So this is an absolute win for heroes like Kalari, who already like to do that. Now that it's going to deal 15% more damage whenever the enemy doesn't have a teammate within 800 units of themselves. Now, going back to Insatiable Harvest, this is a dream for any farming jungler. The earlier you get this item, the better, because every camp leader that you take out, every siege minion you take out, you're going to be permanently increasing your physical power. So, the longer you have this item completed, the more physical power you will build up, the more rewarded you will be for simply farming your jungle, what every jungler is already doing. And that is it for the assassins. We're going to move on to fighters. And the first item coming to fighters is Visar Carapace, or Visar Carapace. I'm not sure exactly how it's supposed to be pronounced. This is a 3,000 gold item providing 45 physical power, 225 health, and 15 ability haste. It has 2 passives. One, they kind of work in tandem. So it has a passive called Shell Shock. Basic attacks and abilities are going to apply a stack of Scorn, and at 3 stacks to a hero, to the same hero, you will trigger Shell Smash, which is the second passive on the item. Scorn can only be applied once per ability, so you will need to get 3 different abilities in order to get all 3 stacks of Scorn. Once you've gotten those 3 stacks, you will trigger Shell Smash, which has a 12-second cooldown. This is going to deal 60 to 190 damage based on your level. And you will gain 80 plus 10% HP as a shield. I end up getting kicked out of that game, so we're actually just going to look at items from the menu. It's a smarter way to do it anyway. So Visar Carapace. Shell Smash, you're going to get 80 plus 10% of your max HP as a shield for 3 seconds. So a really cool item there. The next item that's coming to fighters is called Volcanica. Its main goal is reduce cooldown. So it's going to do 35 physical power, give you 35 physical power, 275 health, and 10 ability haste. It has a passive called Hellstorm. On ability cast, you will reduce your other current basic ability cooldowns by 1 second, and that is increased to 2 seconds when casting your ultimate ability. So every ability that you cast, you're going to be making your other abilities more readily available. So this is a great item for those that really rely on their abilities. Thinking like Feng Mao. It has a second passive on it called Restriction, where it's just a restriction on Hellstorm, the previous passive, where it has 40% effectiveness for stance swapping heroes like Eden, the new hero coming out. If you don't know about Eden, go check out my video. I'll put it somewhere for you guys to look. And Wukong, heroes like that. And that is it for the fighters. We're now going to switch to what many people have been excited about, is the Mage items. The first new item that we're going to talk about that's coming to Mages is the Amulet of Chaos. This is a multi-kill focused item. It's going to provide 85 magical power and 12% magical penetration. It has a passive called Deadly Wish that triggers on a takedown. When you take down an enemy, you will reduce your current basic ability cooldowns by 60% and restore 30% of your missing mana. So this is really going to keep you in the fight, and it's going to snowball you into those multi-kills, as all of your abilities are going to be that much more readily available for you to take on the next person. Really, really cool item. Short and sweet and simple, but it's going to pack a punch. The next item is called Claw of Hermes. It is an anti-magic item, so it's going to provide 70 magical power. And this one's really interesting because it's kind of like a bruiser, beefy magical build. So it's going to provide 175 health, 75% base health regen, and 250 mana. Thinking maybe heroes like Quang would be really beneficial with this. It has a passive on it called Mana Burn. On successful basic attacks against melee heroes, you'll drain 2% of their max mana. Against ranged heroes, you'll drain 3% of their max mana. And deals true damage equal to 75% of the mana drained. So this is similar to the carry item that they have brought to the game. If you are a ranged hero that builds this item, this passive is 50% as effective. It has an additional passive called Mind Flare. So based on the target's missing mana, your abilities deal 0 to 10% more damage based on their missing mana. So this is a very cool item that kind of builds upon itself. On one hand, you have this mana burn that's siphoning away actively this enemy's mana as you are basic attacking them. That is turning back into true damage. It's going to be equal to 75% of the mana drained, as just dumping back into your opponent as true damage. But then additionally, based on the target's missing mana, your abilities that you cast are going to deal 0 to 10% more damage. So this is a really, really great item that is just the longer, more extended fights that you may have with an enemy, the more mana you're able to siphon away with this mana burn, you're going to be dealing more and more damage. Really, really cool item. I love the interaction there. So the next item coming to Mages is called Life Core. This is a healing and shielding based item. It's going to provide 75 magical power, 300 mana, 15 ability haste, and 12% heal and shield power. Love it. Has a passive on it called Life Extraction. Upon damaging heroes, you will gain charges equal to 15% of that damage dealt. At 100 charges, damage a hero to trigger a healing wisp. So you will fire a healing wisp at the lowest health allied hero within 1,000 unit radius. It'll heal them for 100 plus 50% of your magical power. So this is a very cool item, and the longer you go in the game, the more damage you have, the more charges you'll gain in every instance of damage to a hero, because you gain charges equal to 15% of the damage dealt. So earlier in the game, that might not be that much, but as you build your magical power and you start hitting for huge chunks, you're going to gain more and more charges per damage instance. So you'll be able to get multiple healing wisps off inside of a team fight. So this could be game changing if the more that you're able to get off. The next item coming to Mages is Gaussian Greaves. This is a mobility item. Provides 50 magical power, 200 health, 25 physical power, and 10 ability haste. It has a passive on it called System Shock with a 15-second cooldown. You will gain the ability to double jump while midair. After double jumping, you emit a shockwave upon landing, dealing 80 plus 30% magical power as damage and slowing all people hit by 40% for 1.25 seconds. Going to be an absolute life ender when you get slammed on by one of these jokers, especially with the new world shift that's coming. If you guys don't know, they're introducing a new world shift called Frostfall. It is absolutely incredible and amazing, and I have a video about it as well, and all of the changes it is bringing to the map. You can find that up here somewhere. I'll put it on the screen for you guys to go and watch that as well. It's really changing the entire map, adding new pathways, new avenues. It's going to be an incredible thing. And I also just think that it looks beautiful. It's so interactive. It has audio cues. Visually, it's very, very cool. So check out that video. But Gaussian Greaves is going to work in tandem with that because it's going to give you more places to jump off of. The next item that Mage has got is called Orion. It is a damage amplification item. Provides 80 magical power, 300 mana, 15 ability haste, and has a passive called Hasty. Gain attack speed equal to 80% of your ability haste. Bellicamanes everywhere are screaming, fist pumping, fist punching the air. It has a second passive called Interstellar. Upon a successful on-hit attack, you'll deal 1.5% increased damage to the target for 3 seconds, up to a maximum of 15%. So the more that you're landing these hits, you're going to deal up to 15% additional damage. So the more extended the fight goes, you're going to be absolutely popping people, right? Wraith mains might be rejoicing as well with this one. The next item coming to Mage is called Spectral Schematics. This is a burst item. It provides 50 magical power, 300 health, and 20 ability haste. It has a passive on it called Breakthrough. Upon immobilizing an enemy unit, you'll deal 40 plus 6% of the target's current health additional damage. Now, this is not max health. This is the target's current health. So it's a different situation. So it doesn't absolutely shred tanks. It's the target's current health. Now, that might be that you hit a full health Grux, and that's going to be a pretty significant chunk at 6% of their full HP. But if you're hitting somebody who's only got 120 health left, 6% of that, I don't know math. I can't do that, but it's less than a full health Grux as additional damage. So it's really going to help you start to shred through the enemies and show them that you're not to be trifled with. And that does it for our Mage items. So we're going to go over to my place close to home. The first item coming to supports is called Devotion. It is an anti-magic item. So it's going to give you 40 magical power and 35 magical armor. In addition to that, you'll get 100% base mana regen and 10% heal and shield power. It has a passive called Fidelity. Your heals and shields are 15% stronger on allied heroes that are below 40%. And a second passive called Mystica. Upon taking magical damage, if the incoming damage distance is greater than 120, you will reduce it by 20%. So that is a huge buff over to a support. If you're playing into a primarily magical powered team, you take this, and towards the late game, everything you're being hit with is being cut by 20% damage. So it's really going to give you a lot of sustain, a lot of ability to stick out those fights and be a force to be reckoned with inside of team fights. Love, love, love this item. Supports everywhere are screaming. The next item is Inra's Blessing. This is an anti-disruption item. So 40 magical power, 250 health, 250 mana, 15 ability haste. It has a passive called Inra's Protection with a 15-second cooldown. When you are within 1,000 units of an ally hero, if they are immobilized, you grant them a 50 plus 30% magical power plus 8% max HP shield for 3.5 seconds. And the cooldown, this is my favorite part of this item, guys. Favorite part. The cooldown is per target. Yes, you heard that right. So inside of a team fight, okay, as long as your team is staying relatively close to each other within 1,000 units, this shield and risk protection can go out to all, essentially every member of your team. It could be active inside of that 15-second window on every member of your team because the cooldown is per target. I absolutely love that. Just really well thought out. It's going to extend team fights. It's going to make you be able to help people without having to think about it. It's not an ability that you have to activate. You don't have to press a button. You can be doing other things. It's just going to automatically happen in risk protection. Love that. I love when the items play the game for me. Makes me look better than I am. Just don't tell anybody. The next item coming is Luxforge Lantern. It's a scaling item. Provides 30 physical power, 200 health, 15 ability haste, and it has a passive for all our Harry Potter fans out there, Lumos. On takedown or ward kill, love that. That's just a new interaction there. On a ward kill, you gain a stack. Your stacks permanently grant 1 physical power. Now the breakdown is takedowns are 2 stacks, ward kills are 2 stacks, and at max is 30 stacks. The Wanderer is the second. The second passive on this item is called the Wanderer. So while out of combat, you just gain a flat 7% movement speed. That's incredible, and we love that. So you actually can get up to 30 additional physical power that is permanently given to you just by building these stacks. So it's a good item to get early. The longer you have it, the more you're able to build those stacks and get up to 30 additional physical power from this item. So really, the item can give you 60 physical power when you've got max stacks. It's a really cool item there. The next item coming to supports is called Xenia. It's a shielding item. Provides 200 health, 30 physical power, 20 magical armor, and 10 ability haste. It has a passive called Xenos Guard with a 10-second cooldown. When you are within 150 units to an ally hero, so much closer distance now, you can grant them a 50 plus 10% max HP plus 5 per level. So really good scaling option here. Shield for 4 seconds. The cooldown is per target. Now there is a restriction on this. Subsequent applications to the same hero within 10 seconds are 50% effective. I think my favorite thing about the Xenos Guard here is that the trigger for this shield is just when within 150 units to an allied hero. So it's not something you have to activate. It's not something you have to think about. When you're within 150 units, you shield that ally. Just a really cool feature, just kind of, I don't know, for a support, it's a really cool feeling to just be able to just passively help out and support your team. Moving over to tanks, everybody's beefy boys. The first item coming to them is the Cursed Scroll. This is another one of those cursed items. It's going to give 20% attack speed, 50 physical armor, 30 magical armor, and 150% base health regen. This has the Curse of Pain that is triggered on basic attacks. You deal 30 plus 5% of your health damage to yourself and the enemy target. Okay, so that's this, hence pain. You're dealing both people. This damage cannot hurt you below 35% health. It has a second passive called Forbidden Art. For every 100 health you are missing, you will gain 2.5% attack speed and 30% base health regen. So the trade-off here is you are dealing damage to yourself when you're basic attacking, but the less health you have, the faster you are attacking. And the more health you will regenerate. So it's kind of feeding into itself, but also the curse can never bring you below 35% of your health. You can obviously continue damaging the enemy and bring them all the way down to 0 to a gray screen, but you'll stop at 35% health. And then the more you are attacking, you will gain 30% base health regen. And then for every 100 health you're missing, you're going to gain 30% base health regen as well. So you'll kind of bring that health back up, and then it'll happen again the next time you fight. The next item coming to tanks is called Inquisition. It's a very cool item that has a cool interaction for area damage. You get 275 health, 200 mana, 40 magical armor, and 10 ability haste. And it has a passive on it called Psy Wave with a 1-second cooldown. When you cast an ability, an aura or a wave is going to emit around you, dealing 60 plus 2% of your health as damage to an enemy that is standing in that area. And damage is increased by 35% against monsters. Sevarog absolutely screaming right now. So the next item is hilarious to me, and if any of you watched the dev stream, you will have seen this, but this item is called Rebirth, and it has exactly what you would expect on it. You get 40 physical armor, 30 magical armor, and 10 ability haste. It has a passive called Mechanico with a 240-second cooldown, so that's not a short cooldown. Upon dying, it is triggered. So after 1.75 seconds, you come back to life as a drone that you can move around and pilot and shoot out of. If you survive for 7 seconds as this drone, you will resurrect back with 50% health and mana. Yes, you will resurrect. So you can move slower, but if you can survive for 7 seconds, you come back to life. Whether you survive or die, the cooldown is triggered 240 seconds before you can try again. So your drone has between 500 and 1700 health based on your level when you die. Your stats are reduced and you can't use abilities or items. You have 50% of your jump height, and you can basic attack for reduced damage. So it's very cool, kind of a cool way for you to get back in the game, especially being over there in the solo lane where nobody's visiting you and you're getting weak-sided. It is what it is. This is a cool way to stay in the game longer without having to have a gray screen. The next item coming to tanks is called Transference. It is a shielding item. It provides 200 health, 40 physical power, 35 magical armor, and 12% heal and shield power. Passive on it called Shield Transference. Upon shields expiring, 50% of its remaining value is restored as health over 3 seconds. This is reduced to 25% for ally shields. And it has a second passive called Ionizing Charge. While you are shielded, you gain 12% movement speed and 10% increased armor. So really, really cool interactions with shielding. I love that you also gain this health regen off of ally shields. That's a really cool, because it's kind of looping in people that are giving shields to other people, maybe not shielding themselves. I see a couple of supports building this, if I'm being honest. This is a really cool item. The next item coming to tanks is called Vainglory. It's a defense. It's a defense-based item. It's going to give you 200 health, 45 physical armor, 35 magical armor. So this has a passive on it called Pride with a half a second cooldown. When you deal damage or when you take damage, you're getting a stack of something called Vanity for 4 seconds. Each stack of Vanity is going to provide you with 0.5% increased physical and magical armor to a maximum of 10 stacks. So that's 5% right there. However, it has an additional passive called In Vain. While you are at the max stacks of 10, you're going to gain a flat additional 10% increased armor. So for as long as you can maintain 10 stacks, you'll have 15% additional resistances. Very, very cool way to, the longer the fight goes, the more sustain you will have, the more ability to stick out those long fights. In team fights, you're going to be an absolute bastion. This is a great item for if you've got heavy burst on the enemy team. You just need to be the guy that can stick out those fights. This is a great item for you. New crest for carries is called Exodus. It is a disruption crest. So it is 12 physical power, 15% attack speed, 7% lifesteal. And it has a really cool active on it called Eviction Grenade with a 120-second cooldown. You can lob a grenade that will pierce enemy units. So you go through enemy units and explodes once it hits terrain. When it explodes, it's going to deal 100 plus 80% of your physical power as damage and stun for very short 0.1 second. It also, this is a cool part, launches enemies back, and heroes that get launched take 20% more damage from you for 1 second. So you can create some space and then deal that clutch damage to somebody right when you need to. Really cool option, some cool survivability in a way that we weren't seeing in crests for carries. So one of the 2 new crests coming to mages is called Void Gazer. It's a burst-focused crest. You get 30 magical power, 200 mana, 8 ability haste, and it has an active with a 100-second cooldown called Eldritch Grasp. You will fire a projectile of Void Miasma that will pierce non-heroes. It'll deal 100 plus 20% of your magical power as damage. It applies a 35% decaying slow over 1.25 seconds, and you will deal 12% more damage to targets that are hit for 3 seconds. Notice it says targets. So you can deal 12% more damage for 3 seconds to anybody that gets hit by this projectile. So this is something that you could use if you need just that extra bit of damage to take somebody out. It's a really cool way to get some additional burst when you need it. The second crest is coming to mages. It's called Winter's Fury. It is a disruption crest. You get 30 magical power, 100 health, 8 ability haste. It has an active called Chill Rend with a 105-second cooldown. This will release a sphere of icy energy that expands over 3 seconds. It's going to deal 100 plus 20% of magical power as damage to enemies that are inside of that zone. And it will apply a 50% decaying slow over 2.5 seconds. That's pretty good. Damaged enemies take 10% more magical damage for 3 seconds. Notice it does not say magical damage from you, meaning from every source of magical damage on your team, they will take 10% more of that damage. It's a really cool way to kind of get that extra damage on somebody that you need to get. So the first of 2 crests coming to the supports is called Pygmy Dust. It has a shrink effect, so you get 100 health, 40% base mana regen, and 2 gold per second. It has an active called Minimize with a 120-second cooldown. You can shrink yourself or a target hero for 3.5 seconds. Allies gain 40% decaying movement speed. Enemies are slowed by 40% and deal 25% less damage. This is really memey to me, but I guess it could be kind of funny. I see a lot of supports doing this to carries when the carry didn't want them to, and a lot of arguments ensuing, but that's just me. I think this is a funny item. I see its purpose, good move speed and slow, so good disengage if you needed it, and a way to survive a fight that you aren't winning. And I guess you could use it to engage as well. It doesn't reduce your carry's damage, it just reduces the enemy damage. So it's a good way to catch up to somebody who's running away from you. Really interesting item there. The next crest is called Fluorescence. This is a cleanse item. 120 health, 50% base health regen, and 2 gold per second. It has an active called Star Shroom, which is a 75-second cooldown. You're going to place a bouncy Star Shroom for 120 seconds. Heroes at the location are immediately bounced up high into the sky. Heroes that jump on the Star Shroom bounce off of it, and each hero can only bounce on it once every 5 seconds. It disappears 10 seconds after being bounced on. So you kind of have to coordinate if you want multiple people to hit it, because 10 seconds after somebody bounces on it, it's gone. This is a really cool way to have some new engages, maybe go over a wall that nobody expected you to go over. With the new Frostfall World Shift that's coming, really cool implications there, because you can already get through new avenues of walking that you weren't anticipating. And if you're not familiar with Frostfall, the World Shift that's coming in patch 1.10, I made a whole video about it, and it's very cool. It's visually stunning. It has sounds specifically to it. It changes every single area of the map, all 4 quadrants of the jungle. The river is affected. The Fangtooth Pit, the Orb Pit is affected. Lanes are affected. It's amazing. So go and check that video out so you can know what to expect when the patch drops on Tuesday. So tanks have a new crest called Earth Spirit. This is an engage-focused crest. It gets 180 health, 8 physical armor, 5 magical armor. It has an active called Boulder Charge with a 165-second cooldown. You transform into a boulder, becoming unstoppable for 5 seconds. In this form, you automatically roll forward. You deal 40 plus 4% of the target's current health as damage to enemies in your path, and colliding with an enemy hero stuns them for 0.75 seconds and ends the transformation. The cooldown is reduced by 45 seconds if you hit a hero. So a really cool way to engage. This makes me think about Geb from Smite and Smite 2. I used to love rolling around and going super fast, trying to hit people. So cool thing to be able to do, to just engage on somebody and absolutely dunk on them. The new crest coming to fighters is called Gravitum and has disruption focused. You get 12 physical power, 100 health, 4% Omnivamp, and it has an active called Polarity Blast with a 90-second cooldown. You'll fire a projectile of unstable energy which pierces non-heroes and has infinite range. It deals 50 plus 20% of your physical power as damage, and it grounds the first hero hit for 2 seconds. So a really cool way to get a cheeky little unsuspecting hard CC there. Or just do it right in their face. Either way, doesn't matter. Cool way to get some engaged and disrupt someone's flow. And that's going to do it, everybody. That is all 38 new items and crests that are coming to the game in patch 1.10. I hope that you get a lot out of this video, that you can put it to good use, knowing exactly how you want to build and what new items you want to try first. Let me know in the comments below what item you're most excited about. If you would, please consider liking and subscribing this video. It goes a long way and helps me out more than you know. So thank you so much, and I will see you over the weekend and into next week on patch 1.10. Thanks. See you next time.